Based off David Benavidez, I thought his performance was impressive because you ask questions about guys like David Benavidez. You want to do the ring generalship, the IQ test. You want to see where he is as a fighter. Have he got better on defense? Has he got better on punch placement? And I thought David Benavidez passed the test to me, especially with a fighter like Caleb Plant. And he found a way to neutralize Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant was very elusive the first few rounds, but when you watched him, Caleb Plant had trouble landing something up significant. He just couldn't really get his head. What I do is use lateral movement, jump in and out, pick my spot, and play it safe, but basically initiate enough offense or action for the fight to I'm gonna make adjustments. Okay, I'm gonna use it, even though sometimes he was out of range. He say, okay, he's out of range, but I'm gonna keep trying to flick that jab and then try to throw the hook. But then I'm gonna try to lower him in, and then I'm gonna start popping him with the lead right. And that's what David Benavidez managed to do later on in the fight. And he was pacing himself, and he was making sure that he didn't gas out, which led to him eventually being able to start cracking Caleb Plant and eventually start walking him down, landing the shots. Now, a lot of people are upset about Kenny Bayless, and somebody called me and asked me, well, do you think, because a lot of people are upset about the job that Kenny Bayless did, and a lot of people were like, okay, maybe Kenny Bayless getting to a age now to where maybe he need to consider stepping down. Kenny Bayless is 73 years old. Some people are saying, well, maybe they need to go a little bit younger. I can tell you this much: Joe Biden, the more I listen to this dude talk, he seemed to be losing his mind day in and day out. Like I said, I think that dementia or Alzheimer's is starting to kick in. And based off what he said earlier today, I think that's relevant. I think he's too old to be president of the United States. That's my own personal problem that I have with him, and that's my own personal thoughts too. But I've never been a fan of Joe Biden due to his history of how he treated my community and how he purposely designed laws to basically lock a lot of people up like me, even though he tried to lie about it and say it wasn't intentional, but it was. But nevertheless, the more I look at David Benavidez, I'm just keeping it a buck. He said that he got a 3-fight deal in place that would include David Morrell. I like that fight. Demetrius Andrade, and then I think Charlo. I gotta be honest with you. At this point, I think David Benavidez is beating all them guys. I'm just keeping it a buck. I think his hardest fight will be Demetrius Andrade, because Demetrius Andrade can throw looping shots from weird angles. He can pot shot you. He's elusive. But just like Caleb Plant, he can initiate enough action to get the judges to sway his way. But he hits harder than Caleb Plant. That's fact. He can put you down. But I see David Benavidez probably winning a controversial split decision. Morale is a good fighter, but I just think that Benavidez is a couple of levels or a level and a half above him, and I see probably Benavidez stopping him in the later rounds. But it'll be a fight. I wouldn't be surprised if David Benavidez gets dropped in that fight, but I think he'll get up, and I think he'll make adjustments, and I think he'll break Morale down, and I think he'll get a stoppage. Jamal Charlo, I just think he'll outpoint him in a dominant fashion. I I don't think he'll knock him out, but I just think he'll outpoint him, and he'll win a unanimous decision. To be honest with you, right now, I don't think there's nobody that can beat David Benavidez right now. I don't even think Canelo can do anything with him right now. Not at this point. This fight happens probably 2 or 3 years ago. Of course, you go with Canelo, but David Benavidez has got better in every fight. And I just think now that his style would just be very difficult for Canelo. I know you Canelo fans don't want to hear it, but that's just factual. It's just truth. But then you looking at Canelo now. Canelo, his direction of where he goes after Ryder, it ain't looking too good for him, because they're gonna mandatory Benavidez, hopefully Mauricio Sullivan, to do the right thing, and mandatory Canelo versus David Benavidez. Now Canelo could go back up to 175. He said he isn't gonna fight, but we'll see. Canelo is known to change his mind. He said he isn't going to put a weight clause or go down to make Bivol come in at 168. He said he will fight him at 175. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. Well, seeing is believing. I want to believe you, but, you know, things can change. I would love to see a rematch, but I'm going to be honest with you. At this point, Canelo can't do anything. Canelo can't do anything with Bivol. Canelo got dominated thoroughly in that fight. And I think Bivol, based off the fact that he saw how easy he beat Canelo, I think he'll be even more determined. Like I said, you might see Canelo get stopped by Bivol. It's not out of the, you know what I'm saying? It's not out of the question for Bivol to stop Canelo in a rematch. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people thought, had he, like I said, turned it up a little bit, he could have got the stoppage in that fight. He just was overwhelming Canelo. I mean, Canelo couldn't do nothing with Bivol's range. And we all know David Benavidez got range. So, and he's faster, and he's more fluent than Dimitri Bivol. So, what makes people think that Canelo would be able to, you know, do anything with David Benavidez? I'm just keeping it a buck, and I know people don't want to hear it. And I think he should just fight David Benavidez in September. If he win, then he can consider maybe a rematch with Bivol in December. And then as far as Bivol go, Bivol need to make a fight that we all want to see, and that's for Undisputed versus Arthur Beterbiev. Now I heard that I heard that Beterbiev is going to fight Smith, like maybe in the summer. They're talking about July. But Bivol could basically step in and say, okay, well, let's make the fight with Beterbiev for Undisputed, because it's time to make that fight. And to be honest with you, in negotiations, Beterbiev should be the A side, because he should be the A side, and that's just real talk. But that's negotiations. We'll see if it happens. That's just gonna come down to if Matchroom and Top Rank can find some common ground to make that fight. But Bivol should be thinking about Arthur Beterbiev. He 3 belts away in a win away from being undisputed at light heavyweight. Arthur Beterbiev is 1 belt away from being undisputed at heavyweight. Both of these fighters are undefeated, so it makes all the sense in the world. Like I said before, if you prolong this fight, it comes across trying to age Arthur Beterbiev out, and that's what it looks like. Arthur Beterbiev is like 38 years old. And you figure like, hell, he ain't got that much time left. And if you bibble it, it comes across, okay, but we'll push the fight back another 6 months, another year. Maybe he, shows some signs of wear and tear. And then we get in the ring with him. And that betters our chances. But this fight need to happen now. It'll be another super fight and a big fight that can get made. 2023 should be all about making big fights. Put the politics aside and let's make these fights. Just like Jose Ramirez said, no more politics. He did tell me in the other media that, hey, some of the issues he had with not taking big fights, he said he want to be fairly compensated. He said he'll fight Regis Prograis. I'd love a fight with Regis Prograis. And I know Regis Prograis is willing to come to Fresno. Regis Prograis will fight anybody, anywhere. It'll be a good fight. It'll be an exciting fight. In all likelihood, you would favor Regis. The smart money would be on Regis to win. But it still would be an entertaining fight for the most part. The fans to get their money's worth. And as you know, Jose Ramirez has already said that, hey, I'm getting older. I want to go up to 147. And he's already said that he's considering, a move to 147. To me, he may only have one or two more fights at 147. At 140 before he moves up to 147. So, let's see if we get these fights. I want to get these big fights. I think boxing deserves it and the fans deserve it. We're tired of seeing these middle of the meal like boxing matches with, fighters that, are heavy. In all likelihood, well, he's going to win this fight. They call elite for a reason, because they're supposed to be elite. Now, there are times where fighters have an off night and they get surprised. But I think everybody needs to chill with basing everything off what happened with Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas. When you hear about elite fighters or so-called elite fighters fighting, middle of the meal or mediocre competition, it's just highly unlikely, because there's levels to this. That's why it's called heavy favorite, because you're supposed to be elite. So we'll see what happens though. Anyway, it's your boy Town. I'm out.